What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So Nintendo's 2020 looks a bit empty, right past Paper Mario, and there were a lot of questions for Nintendo going into their annual shareholders meeting, and they at least had an answer that put some people at ease a bit, but there's still a lot of questions about their schedule going forward. We're going to talk about that today. Also, a massive breakthrough in the PlayStation 2 scene. That's right, we have some retro gaming news today. And then Activision, are they at it again with Crash Bandicoot 4? Because it sounds like a single-player game from them with Crash Bandicoot could have microtransactions in it. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit the red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're going to start today with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the HD remaster that's coming out. Seems like Square is putting a lot of time and a lot of effort into this game. It's been delayed, it's kind of disappeared for a while, and now it's of course coming out at the end of August, which is exciting stuff because we find out it has crossplay between all these different platforms. It's also going to cell phones. There's a lot of things to like about this, including the online multiplayer, but here's something else that seems kind of interesting from Square. There's going to be a free version, so like a demo you can try out and see what you think of it, that will allow you to play 3 different dungeons either by yourself or with other people who also have the Lite version of it. And if you know someone who has the game, just straight up, you can play up to 13 dungeons with them. And this makes a ton of sense, by the way, because this game is, of course, multiplayer focused. So you want a bunch of people to be online, even if they're using the Lite version of the game. The choice of 13 dungeons, as long as someone there has the game, is a massive benefit for that person who owns the game, because you can have some people over and maybe they bring their Switch systems with them or they have their phone. I mean, think about that. You can invite someone over, they could have just like their iPhone with them, and they can jump into a game just by grabbing the Lite version. I really like what Square is doing with this release. I am a little surprised that they've gone this far with a game that I didn't really think that many people had played, but hey, somebody at Square likes Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and I'm okay with that. We also had some updates on The Last of Us Part 2 sales figures, and we had talked about previously how it had this massive opening in the UK, also topped the charts in the Famitsu sales, and now we have numbers directly from Sony. It's sold 4 million copies in its first 3 days, which makes it, yes, the fastest selling PlayStation 4 exclusive from Sony to date. That beats out God of War and Spider-Man. And we talked about before how just attention around a game, whether it's good or bad, it seems to help in the sales department, specifically for a game as high profile as The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, there's a lot of people online who don't really like this game, specifically the direction of the plot and the story, and I wasn't really sold on it either, but it's clear that people are picking up the game and at least playing through it, which means it's a big win for Sony overall, right? So while there's a lot of argument going back and forth right now, I'm sure that Neil Druckmann's pretty happy because in Sony's eyes, hey, you did good. You sold 4 million copies in 3 days. It'll be interesting to see how this continues going forward. Does it just continue selling well, or does it have a point where it just really drops off and then eventually it's like a $10 game that slowly gets to like 10 million copies? Oh, and check this out. This was really weird. So at the end of the last week, there's a new Wii game that was announced. Yeah, super strange, right? New Wii game and a new Wii U game. That's Shakedown Hawaii. No one was expecting this. This is from VBlank. It's cool, right, to have a new Wii game coming out in 2020. I mean, a Wii U game, all right, sure, but like a new Wii game that's not just dance, that's amazing. I mean, it's going to be annoying for collectors because, like, you still got to keep an eye out for Wii games, apparently, or even Wii U games. Thought we were even done with that. But check this out. VBlank is putting this out. It's, of course, Shakedown Hawaii. I did like the game. I played it on the Switch and enjoyed it for what it was. But the Wii version is going to launch on Thursday, July 9th. That's at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. $30, and it's limited to 3,000 copies. So you're going to want to have their email notifications on so you can jump in immediately, because that will probably be, again, something that collectors will want to grab. And then the Wii U and Steam versions are going to follow in August. What a strange thing, right? To be talking about brand new Wii games in 2020, but here we are, and hey, maybe this won't be the last one, we'll see. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We'll start with Nintendo and I guess the plans for the rest of 2020. It's been a strange year overall, right? I think everyone can agree with that. I mean, the coronavirus seemed to really mess up just a lot of production schedules that were going on with gaming and behind the scenes, and we would slowly find out about this as games were delayed and moved around and shifted in the fiscal year schedule for a lot of these companies, and there were delays on games that we never even heard about. Take that with, of course, E3 just not even really happening this year. It kind of happened, but not completely, right? We still have announcements, but they are very spread out currently with Summer Games Fest, and then we have IGN's thing, and now we have these different companies doing their own things with Ubisoft, then we just had EA's, and it's all over the place. Weird year, right? So when we hear Nintendo say that 2020 is still on track as it's supposed to be, that gives me hope that they are going to have some announcements soon. They also did talk about the Switch production that was having an issue, of course, because factories were being shut down and temporarily halted once again because of COVID-19. But as they are saying here in their shareholder meeting that was held on Friday, Shintaro Furukawa did say that they are now normalizing and should be back to normal by summer. So like pretty soon. Like I said before, in the next month or so, probably by the end of July, you should start to see Switch systems, specifically the regular Switch, not necessarily the Switch Lite, as a lot of people that I've noticed would prefer to just get the regular Switch because, of course, it is that hybrid system, whereas the Switch Lite for $100 less doesn't have that functionality. So the regular Switch sells better, but it's also harder to find. By the end of July, you should start seeing them more or less pile up, I guess, or at least show up in force in some of those stores. So then we go over to 2020. It's still on track. The only strange thing about that is after Paper Mario, there's like nothing really. Like, what do they have scheduled for the rest of this year? They have Pokemon DLC that's out at the end of this year. Pokemon Snap didn't get a date, just said, I guess, soon, coming soon. I don't even think that's going to make this year. And people start to kind of sit back and wonder, well, we don't have dates for anything beyond Paper Mario that is out in about 3 weeks. So what can we expect? Well, I mean, the biggest thing right now is that Mario 3D Collection that's been heavily rumored, and it would make sense in a year like this. While they had already planned it previously from what was going around, this would make some sense to have some remasters kind of come out, and I am going to be curious to see how much time they put into that. But then you could also see a date get put on something like Bayonetta 3, depending on how Platinum is working with that, and they could have another announcement or two specifically from the Wii U, to be honest. I mean, we're expecting ports of Pikmin 3, which they'll probably just call it Pikmin 3 Deluxe or something, right? Put the U on there, why not? They did it with New Super Mario Bros. And then you should see something with Mario 3D World. And then I guess at that point, the back half of 2020 starts to fill up, especially if you get a third-party game like Doom Eternal, which everyone seems to have forgotten about. I kind of did too. But you start to pile those up, and 2020, the back half for Nintendo, at least starts to fill out a bit. It's been a weird year, like I said. We were starting to think that after Cyberpunk announced it, that they might even start to slip into 2021. Fortunately, November, they managed to get there. And it's strange right now for gaming and trying to make these schedules overall. And most likely what you'll see from Nintendo, they'll announce the game 2 months before the game comes out, similar to what they did with Paper Mario, and they might do that for every single release. Seriously, like let's say the Mario 3D Collection, right? We'll say they call it that. Let's say that's coming out at the end of October. We might not hear about that until like mid-August. So it's strange, I know, because normally we would have had a big Nintendo E3 presentation and we'd be talking about all kinds of games right now. But that didn't happen this year, and Nintendo had to call an audible, and we'll see what happens. I'm thinking they'll at least announce something before Paper Mario, so we at least have a game from them dated. And hey, you never know with the Nintendo Online service, maybe they add Nintendo 64 games to it in September, October with that yearly subscription renewal coming up. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 2. It's pretty old now, right? It's like almost 20 years old or something. It's been out for a long time. But one thing that's always been strange about the PlayStation 2 comes down to the soft modding scene, because you would use a memory card and free McBoot, and that's how you would be able to load things like homebrew on burned discs that you would have. And it was a little difficult even to get that memory card done. People just started buying them online to make it easier. So like if one person has a modded PS2, you can just move it over and exploit the PS2 memory card itself, and then I guess people would just sell them. It was just easier to buy them. I talked to MVG at one point when it came down to modding up a PS2 Now, and it seems like it hasn't changed that much since I was playing around with it like 10 years ago or something. But a massive breakthrough appears to have happened to the point now where a stock PlayStation 2 system, straight up, no free McBoot, no mod chips, none of that, can play a burned disc, whether it's homebrew or most likely, I'll just say it, commercial games, I'm sure. Backups, we'll go with backups. But check this out. This was a video that was posted on YouTube. It was unlisted. I'm not sure if they made it public yet, but this was from C-Turt, who has now developed a way to where you can burn a disc for the PS2. And what happened here was C-Turt found a way to exploit the console's DVD player functionality, in turn allowing them to run an exploit that would then boot right off of the disc without any type of hard mod or even soft mod of the system itself. Now, it's currently locked seemingly to a certain firmware. I believe it's like 3.10, but people are already working with that exploit to move it over to other DVD firmwares. And MVG is going to have a video, I believe, today to check out. So I'll link it down below as soon as it's like available, and you can check it out because he's going to have a longer video explaining more in detail with his knowledge of the hacking and soft modding scene about how all this works, but it is super impressive. The big thing he explained to me when I was talking about it was that this would make loading up the memory card with the McBoot stuff much easier because you could just burn a disk, pop it in, and then you would load onto the PS2 memory card much easier. And it's exciting stuff for just the overall soft mod homebrew scene for the PS2. I mean, imagine it. You just have an exploit that you load up before you burn the disc. You burn the disc, you pop it in, and it just works. You don't have to play around with it. That's like Dreamcast level stuff, right? And eventually that was even fixed. So exciting stuff for the PlayStation 2. I might play around with it myself. I have to check the DVD firmware on one of my two slim PS2s. Hopefully I have the right one and I can try it out, and we'll see how it goes. Next up, let's talk about a strange glitch for the Nintendo Switch that was kind of throwing some people off online over the weekend because it seems to allow a person to view 3DS and Wii U games on the Switch, straight up. Like if you're just kind of scrolling through the eShop, those will pop up. And you can see the tweet here. It was posted by Gerald, who says they added a Strange Journey Redux, which was a 3DS game, to their wish list on Nintendo's website, and it's showing up on their Switch as well. Just pretty weird. It seems to be some kind of weird eShop glitch going on when you're on the website and you just start dropping things on your wish list. It will then be picked up by your Switch, and what this of course is causing is the possibility of fake leaks, I guess, online. You show the eShop and you're like, look what's appeared on the eShop, right? And because they also went in and checked out virtual console games, yeah, that's gonna get some people looking twice, right? When they look down at like Twitter or on a website or forum or something, and look, there's Mario 64 on the Switch, or a 3DS game like Kid Icarus Uprising or something, and they're like, hey, look, Kid Icarus is up on the eShop, right? It's a strange glitch. It doesn't really do much because you can't actually access the game on your Switch. It's just something that most likely Nintendo will fix in a patch to the eShop itself, probably in the next week or two now that it's been made public and was making the rounds. I just wanted to bring it up just in case you're kind of browsing around online and you see it, something exciting like a Mario 64 or anything really that's on the eShop on the Wii U or on the shop on the Wii U or the 3DS that just pops up on the Switch. Just be careful because most likely it's just a wish list that's being viewed. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. People are pretty excited for this game because it appears to have several levels. Like it's being quoted now through some rumors and hints at some of the listings that it's over 100 levels that will be in this game. Of course, we talked about how it seems to have some sort of local or even online multiplayer with leaderboards. And of course, wouldn't you know it, if you go to the Microsoft Store listing, one at $60, which threw some people off, but if it really does have that much content, all right, sure, it's Crash. We all wanted a brand new Crash game. I guess you gotta pay for it. And underneath of that, it does mention in-app purchases, which, let's be real here, in-app purchases, Activision, we've seen that a couple of times right at this point. So now the question has become, how far will this go in Crash Bandicoot 4? I will say, I'm happy that they're more upfront with it because they definitely did some shenanigans with CTR, right? Where they were like, oh, no microtransactions, then like what? Months later, they had an entire shop that was added that had stuff like that. Yeah, it wasn't great at the time when that happened because it felt like they sold you the game and then kind of slid those transactions in after the fact. In-app purchases, though, for Crash Bandicoot 4 could apply to a few things. It's very possible that it won't be terrible, right? Like, there are skins right now that are a part of a pre-order bundle. It's possible that these are for cosmetics, so like those pre-order skins after the game comes out won't be available as a pre-order bundle, and they just throw them in the game as something you can buy if you would like. Seems strange to me. You wouldn't just earn them through, you know, difficult challenges or, I don't know, playing the game. It's very possible, right? No, it's Activision. Most likely you will buy them for $1 or $2, and there'll be a bunch of them. Might even be a shop. That's worst case scenario. Actually, worst case scenario would be that it affects the gameplay itself. I mean, cosmetics, to be honest, I'll just walk past them. I'll say, oh, okay, that's fine. I already spent 60 on the game. I'll live without the green jeans or pants or something on Crash, whatever. But yeah, look out for that. Keep an eye on that, because we'll see what Activision pulls here, or maybe it's just a mistake on Microsoft's storefront. Hopefully we'll find out before launch later on this year. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Marky saying, I can't wait for the comparison videos on day one that compare the speeds of each system and how fast it is to get into and out of games and how quick it will be to switch between games on each system. So this sounds strange, but I've been thinking about this more and more with the overall SSD and the speed of access to the games. Because like yesterday I was playing Spyro, right? The Reignited Trilogy, and it takes a while to get started with that game. A shocking amount of time to get into that game. Loading bars and then just waiting at a black screen and then like the letters come up, and it takes a long time. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know how many times you access some of these games and you're just sitting there waiting, and you add all of that up over like the course of a year or even a full generation? It's probably a lot of time that you sit at the loading screen, to the point where you add all of that up and it might be an entire playthrough of a game by the end of that generation. So think about that. We would probably be getting back quite a bit of game time just by eliminating those load times, and that for a lot of us might be a really big jump to next gen. So I am excited to see the comparison videos and see just how much faster these systems are when it comes to loading into a game. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today. Whether's the rest of 2020 for Nintendo. They say it's still on track. The worst case scenario they said for them is that if there is another spike for COVID, it could mess up some of their plans, but right now, seems to be, full speed ahead for them. What do you think they're going to announce, and what plans would you have in place if you were Nintendo? Let me know below. And then what about Crash Bandicoot 4 and those in-app purchases for Activision? How bad do you think it'll be, or do you think it's going to be some basic cosmetics and nothing else? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.